Today's movie begins against the creepy backdrop of a neighborhood named Ambrew, and the initial scene captures our attention as a man, deeply occupied in pushing his cart, walks through the dimly lit lanes of this village. This seemingly normal evening takes a chilling turn when he stumbles upon an unfamiliar group. To his horror, these strangers reveal themselves as bloodthirsty vampires, launching a vicious attack on the man. This event is an intimidating precursor to the chain of events that the movie subsequently delves into. The plotline then shifts its focus to the vibrant life of Shauna, a spirited teenager. Alongside her trusted companion Pedro, the duo decide to revel in a party later that day. However, Shauna's path soon leads her to Umbrew, and this isn't just any place in the city. Over time, the Umbrew housing building has earned a notorious reputation, transforming it into an unofficial hub for those battling addiction. As Shauna makes her way through the building's echoing corridors, she catches a fleeting yet memorable glimpse of her school crush Chris. But Chris isn't the only reason she's here. Shauna's personal ties to this place run deep. Her mom resides here, trapped in the clutches of addiction. When the mother-daughter duo meets, their interaction is filled with tension, and Shauna's mother, with desperation evident in her eyes, seeks financial help from her daughter. Shauna, with a heavy heart, reveals her father's order against aiding her mother's habits, cause she's just some junkie. But yet, the emotional weight of the situation compels her to do so, and she offers the money, begging her mom to reconsider her choices, but to no avail. In the gripping narrative, we're soon transported to the setting of Shauna's home, right at their dinner table, and here, Shauna ventures a delicate question to her father about the possibility of her mother's return. Jamal, Shauna's protective brother, quickly interjects, asserting that their mother doesn't genuinely care about them. And later on, at the eagerly awaited party, Pedro, ever the supportive friend, tries to bridge the gap between Shauna and her crush. Given Shauna's fateful nature, this encounter doesn't go as planned. In her nervousness, she recalls seeing him in the neighborhood, hoping to strike a conversation. However, Chris's indifferent response only deepens her shame, and embarrassed, Shauna exits the lively gathering and chooses the solitude of a walk home. But this seemingly normal walk takes a terrifying detour when she becomes an accidental witness to a sinister event, a man being ruthlessly attacked by a vampire. Acting on impulse, Shauna shouts, attempting to deter the vampire from his prey. This bold act, however, draws the vampire's attention toward her, and she becomes his next victim. Just as he bites into her, the approaching car alarm and the bright beams of light prompt him to flee. In a state of shock and with the bite mark evident on her skin, Shauna races back home, and haunted by the possibility of her turning into a vampire, she frantically tapes newspapers over her windows, shielding herself from the morning light. And as dawn breaks, a mix of dread and anticipation fills her. Would the sunlight actually burn her, confirming her worst fear? It's her father who finally unveils the truth. Gently peeling away a piece of newspaper, the sunlight filters in, and Shauna realizes the immense relief that she remains untouched, as she realizes that she's not a vampire. But the plot soon transports us to Pedro's cozy home, where an anxious Shauna recounts the terrifying thing that she experienced. At first, Pedro struggles to grasp the gravity of her story, wondering if it's some joke or if she was mistaken for a homeless person, leading to the attack. Reluctantly nodding in agreement, Shauna expresses her growing suspicion that these vampires might be targeting the homeless. And connecting the dots, Pedro hints at a chilling possibility. Could Shauna's mom, given her current circumstances, also be at risk? And with this alarming thought in mind, the duo hurries to Shauna's mother's apartment, and the reunion is far from joyful, as Shauna's worst fears are confirmed when she spots a fresh bloody wound on her mother's body. But before Shauna can console her, the situation spirals out of control, and overwhelmed by the monstrous transformation taking over her, Shauna's mom lunges at her daughter. A frantic struggle ensues, ending with a heart-wrenching sight of Shauna's mom leaping out of the window. As she's exposed to the sun, her now vampiric form burns and disintegrates. At the very somber setting of the funeral, while the others mourn, Shauna undergoes a significant transformation of her own. Instead of being lost in grief, she becomes resolute resolute, setting her sights on revenge. To equip herself for the battle with the vampires ahead, she seeks knowledge from a vampire enthusiast, Grania, and from her, Shauna learns the essential rules of dealing with vampires, the power of garlic, their hypnotic abilities, and most importantly, the transformation process. It's revealed that for a person to become a fully transformed vampire, they must not only be bitten but also drained of life. This revelation provides Shauna with a bittersweet realization as she understands that her survival from the initial attack was due to her not meeting that deadly fate. Armed with this newfound knowledge and a burning desire for vengeance, Shauna readies herself for the looming showdown, with plans to be made and battles to be waged. The intricate tale takes another twist when Chris unexpectedly shows up at Shauna's doorstep. He reveals a connection between their families, sharing that his mother and Shauna's used to be close friends years ago. Sensing the gravity of the situation and the pain Shauna is enduring, Chris offers his help, planning to stand by her side in uncovering the mystery behind the attack of her mom. Soon after, the trio, consisting of Shauna, Pedro, and now Chris, join forces, and guided by Shauna's instincts and information, they venture to find clues. However, instead of finding answers, they're met with a horrifying sight: the once familiar old man, now transformed into a vampire. In a heartbeat, chaos ensues, and in a moment of quick thinking, Shauna employs her silver necklace as a weapon, wrapping it around the vampire's throat. To their surprise, the silver reacts violently with the vampire's skin, causing it to burn. Seizing the advantage, they subdue the creature, tying him securely to a chair. The group then begins to question the restrained vampire, seeking answers. And under pressure, the creature reveals a name: Lefrak, the vampire responsible for turning him. Chris, displaying a resolute approach, suggests that they must eliminate Lefrak to prevent an onslaught of other vampires. The tension in the story escalates as the friends head out in broad daylight to investigate Lefrak's residence. Pedro, eager to share, delves into the history of the mansion, hinting at its original owner being a slave master. However, Shauna, consumed with the urgency of the present, brushes off the historical details and insists on focusing on their immediate task. Later, as the dust settles in, the trio observes some mysterious activities around Lefrak's place. Women, presumably under Lefrak's influence, are seen leaving the mansion. Realizing the enormity of what they're up against, Shauna seeks advice from Grania. She updates her about their recent discoveries, and Grania, initially skeptical about the entire vampire narrative, now feels compelled to join Shauna and the team, lending her expertise to the mission. Together, the group go on a shopping tour, collecting essential items that they believe will help them confront and defeat Lefrak. And supplies in hand, they strategize their next move. As night blankets the city, Shauna makes a discreet exit from her home. Although Jamal, her brother, notices her while disposing of the plants their late mother cherished, he doesn't stop her. The team assembles and takes their pre-decided positions, and Shauna and Grania, covered in disguise, approach Lefrak's house, only to be initially rebuffed by the bouncers. However, a clever action sees them being welcomed inside soon after. And inside, while Grania stays put, Shauna cautiously navigates the mansion. On her way to Lefrak's room, she witnesses a peculiar scene: a man passionately addressing a captive audience. Not wanting to draw attention, she quickly moves forward, but not before she's noticed by some. Once in Lefrak's room, he demands she take off her protective silver necklace, and the encounter with Lefrak takes a tense turn when he tries to put Shauna under his hypnotic spell, intending to bite her. But Shauna was prepared. She distracts her mind with cherished memories of her mother, effectively resisting Lefrak's control. And despite her best efforts, Lefrak manages to bite her, but Shauna's resilience shines through. When the shrill sound of the vampires resonate through the house, the boys waste no time. Quickly setting their garlic bombs into motion, they storm inside, spraying garlic in all corners to fend off the bloodsuckers. And as the chaos unfolds, the man who was previously seen addressing an audience shockingly unveils his identity. He too is a vampire. What's more, he's conducted his sinister operations in the very home where he once suffered as a slave. Panicking, Shauna and her friends scramble to her house, seeking refuge. But their sanctuary doesn't remain secure for long, and soon a group of vampires are pounding on the door, desperate to get inside. The room is filled with fear and anxiety, but Grania remains a voice of calm, reminding them that the vampires can't enter without being invited. This assurance is shattered when the vampires break through windows and front door, triggering a frantic fight for survival. In the midst of this chaos, two unexpected survivors arrive on the scene. Guys who come to the group's aid. One of them is Tundi, whom Shauna remembers spotting earlier driving a cab outside Lefrac's house. Tundi sheds light on a fascinating aspect of vampirism. With the passage of time and the richness of melanin, which is a substance abundant in black skin, some vampires can indeed walk in daylight. Reminiscing about his past, Tundi speaks of a time when dark skin was synonymous with royalty and asserts its enduring significance. Chris, taking in Tundi's words, gazes at Shauna and compliments her beauty. Later in a quiet moment, Shauna and Chris find themselves in an intimate conversation. Chris opens up, revealing that his initial drive to help stemmed from his frustration over his brother's addiction. Yet, as they grew closer, Chris once again emphasizes Shauna's beauty, and the two are on the verge of sharing a kiss when Pedro unintentionally interrupts their moment. When Shauna descends the stairs, Pedro confides in her about his future plans. He reveals that after surviving this nightmare, he intends to accept a college offer in Texas, a decision that he had been hesitant about before. However, the group's dynamics shifts when Grania decides to step away from the ongoing turmoil, leaving the youngsters to fend for themselves. Resolute in their mission, the trio venture into the intimidating confines of an indoor cemetery to face off against Lefrac. And armed with courage and passion, they hoped for victory, but fate had other plans. As the tension-filled confrontation unfolds, Chris is rendered unconscious, leaving the group at a major disadvantage. The situation takes an even grimmer turn when Pedro, in a heart-wrenching sequence, doesn't manage to hit his mark while trying to stake Lefrac. This slip-up costs him dearly as Lefrac seizes the opportunity, biting into Pedro's body. This loss leaves Shauna devastated, making their already daunting tasks seem more insurmountable. In a desperate attempt to evade her adversary, Shauna darts through the building's corridors, searching for safety. But Lefrac, with his eerie ability to tune into her emotions, reveals that he can perceive the profound anger bubbling within her. Confronted by him, Shauna admits that it's pain and anger from losing her mom that fuels her determination, and Lefrac, not deterred, shares his ambitious plan to reconstruct the vampire army that Shauna and her friends had dismantled. And with a sinister edge, he extends an offer to Shauna to join his ranks as one of his vampire offsprings. However, she strongly refuses, triggering a fierce confrontation between the two. In a move that's both brave and strategic, Shauna forces a silver locket, a cherished gift from her mom, into Lefrac's mouth. And seizing this moment of vulnerability, she then drives a stake through him, and the power binding his vampire offspring is broken, and because of his defeat, all those turned are now liberated. As the dust settles after the final confrontation, a groggy Chris regains consciousness. Concern evident in his voice, he calls out to Shauna, craving for updates. And the weight of her recent events bears heavily on him, and he's filled with an anxious need to know what became of Pedro in the aftermath of their clash. The days following this intense event brings about a change in relationships. Chris and Shauna grow closer, their bond stronger by the trials that they face together, and they soon begin dating. And just as Shauna begins to plan a romantic evening with Chris, an unexpected knock on her door interrupts the atmosphere. To her shock, standing before her is a transformed Pedro, now bearing the unmistakable traits of a vampire. This jaw-dropping revelation provides a thrilling climax to the movie, leaving us eagerly awaiting the potential twists and turns that the sequel might unveil. If you want to watch more creepy horror movie recaps, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. We'll see you next time. Bye.